2, 1.
Welcome to Made for More Living.
One small step for man.
With Johnny Jennings.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
The fastest and most exciting hour of news, events, and real estate in Northern California.
And this is a fact that was proved.
Powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Get ready. Here we go.
So on the radio show today, we have a special guest, and this guy did not graduate high school, and I thought nothing good came out of Stockton. But come to find out, every now and then there's a gem, and that gem is Zach Downs with Nanofi. So you didn't graduate high school in the traditional sense, but now you own, or you started one company, sold it, and now you own a second company.
That's correct.
Awesome. So you mind sharing a little bit about your background? Like, are you born and raised in Stockton?
Yes. Well, first, thanks for having me on here. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yes, born and raised in Stockton. Grew up in Stockton. Grew up in a mobile home park in Stockton. Kind of bounced around.
Just so you know, I met Valerie. I was living in a trailer park. So,
were you?
Like a pull behind trailer. Yeah.
No, same thing. Yeah, I lived in a people say mobile home or trailer. Like we lived in you could have hooked this thing up to the back of a Honda Civic. So very small little trailer. Yeah, exactly. And so, started there, and then I did not graduate high school in the traditional sense. I did end up with a proficiency exam or something along those lines, but ended up moving out when I was about 16.
Wow.
And then just went at it, started working. It's been a rocky road along the way, but everything's been good. So
were you entrepreneurial minded when you were 16, or like what were you doing at 16 professionally?
Did you have any jobs when you were a teenager?
Yeah, so I was always trying to find ways to make money, for sure. So some of the funnier ones were...
they were all legal?
Most of them.
Because we're talking about Stockton, just reminding everybody, we're talking about Stockton.
Poor Stockton.
I sold math answers on the school bus.
You sold math answers on the school bus?
Yeah, I did that.
Well, tell me about that.
How did you get paid? Yeah.
Everybody had lunch money.
Okay.
And so, I was always trying to figure out ways to get a little extra money. And so if somebody didn't have their homework or something all the way done on the school bus in the morning on the way to school, then there's some urgency built into that sales environment, right?
Okay.
And so in that environment, you can earn a...
Where'd you get the answers? Did you
I just knew the answer. I just knew it.
Well, see, look at that. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. He just needed to use his talent and his skills for good and not for evil. That's the problem.
There you go.
I love that though. How much did you make off of doing people's homework?
Enough to get a couple extra ice creams during lunch.
I love that. That's smart.
So that was
life changing.
Yeah, exactly. Life changing.
Well, I mean, the guy for that.
For a seventh grader or a sixth grader, extra It's It sandwich. That was big time. It's or words.
What other? Did you ever have a fast food job?
No. First, official job was I wanted to get into real estate.
Okay, like a real estate agent?
Like a real estate agent.
That's not a real job. No,
it's a hobby.
I was 16, and I wanted to get into real estate, and so I went around to a couple different real estate offices. I listened to a guy in Stockton. His name was Hal at the time. He had a few different Prudential offices. And long story short, I thought, this is how I'm going to make a ton of money. So I went into a few brokerages, asked them if I could work there, and they all pretty much told me the same thing. You're only 16, you can't get licensed, there's nothing we can really do for you, etc. And I probably went to 8 or 9 different offices and was given the same answer over and over again. So finally, I walked into a Century 21 office, and I said, I understand I'm only 16. I understand that I can't do this. I gave all of the objections back that I'd already heard.
Smart.
And then said, why don't we do this? Hire me as an unpaid intern for 90 days. And if after 90 days you feel like I'm producing some value, then I can get paid, or we can come up with compensation. Mm-hmm. If not, then you can let me go, and you got 90 days of free labor.
Yeah.
And Elvira was the broker. I'll never forget her. She was a super sweet lady, and she, I guess, liked that pitch, and she said, you know what, I'll pay you day one. And so she hired me, and that was my first official job.
What a smart kid. Some of the best, smartest, brightest people are high school dropouts.
Here.
Yeah. There you go.
Or college dropouts. What's his name from Facebook? Mark Zuckerberg. He dropped out of college.
Yeah.
I love that pitch though. That's so smart.
So after real estate, what happened next?
Well,
Because you had to find a job. You were basically out on your own. You had left the trailer park at 16.
Yep. So I wish I could say that everything was smooth sailing. I ended up over the next couple of years, when you live on your own at 16, 17, you can sometimes make some poor decisions.
Sure.
Right?
Really?
It can happen. It can.
I've never heard of that. Yeah.
So I ended up having a couple of run-ins with the law.
Okay.
And found myself in a situation where I no longer had the job and now was in a really bad spot. And so I was unemployed, high school proficiency education. And so I printed out, 50 resumes and decided, I'm going to go and I need to get a job. Like I was at this point, I need to get a job. So I just kind of went place to place to place. And if it was, an aquarium, I walked in like, I love fish, fish love me, like, let me get a job here. And then next place is insurance, hey, I want to protect people and help what I can, whatever it was.
Smart.
And I walked into a marketing company and the guy asked me to sell him a candy bar. I'll never forget this. He asked me to sell him a candy bar.
It's like Wolf of Wall Street.
Kind of, yeah. It's like the sell me the pen concept. And his thing was the candy bar. And so I pitched him my favorite candy bar and he hired me. And then from there, I worked there for about 7 years. And that's where I would say like I really established like a base and a foundation. And then during that period, we started working in solar and solar started to boom in like 2013. Started working in the solar industry in 2013, learned a ton about solar from 2013 to 2015. The owner of the company wanted to take a pivot and head a different direction, but I felt like I just spent 2 years just absorbing as much about solar as I possibly could.
Yeah.
So I decided to start my own thing at the time, and me and a business partner, we each put a whopping $500 each into a business checking account and started selling like mad, and then grew that to, we had 46 employees when we ended up selling 2020.
Wow.
So over that 5-year period, went from, like I said, $1,000 in a business checking account, nothing else, and then just hired one person, hired another person, got a crew, bought a warehouse, 2 crews, trucks, trailers, and then ended up having like 46 people when we sold.
Incredible.
What do you think it was that helped you turn your life around from dropping out of high school, getting involved in getting arrested, in trouble? What turned your life around to where you own your own business now?
Well, I would say the first thing is God, number one. And then, there's all sorts of stories I can give about God just opening my eyes to, how do I say this? God opening my eyes to what really exists. And sometimes that was different than what I thought existed. And so an example of that was I was in Mexico. This was during that time when I was acting like a wild man. Mm-hmm. And I was down in Mexico and I was angry at the world, angry at my situation, circumstance, all that stuff that sometimes we can get trapped in.
Yeah.
And we ended up needing to take a shower, and the shower was located in a different building that we had to walk up the street to go to. And as we walked into this other, I'm going to call it a house, but it looked like a World War II bombed, like concrete rubble everywhere structure. And as I walked in, there was a concrete room that I saw a mother and a little boy were living in. And the bathroom that we went to use to take the shower was just a garden hose stuck out of the wall. And you stuck your thumb in there and got some spray. And I realized in that moment that all the things I was frustrated about with my circumstance in my life and X, Y, and Z, like I was never in that situation. Like I was never showering from a garden hose. And the next kind of epiphany was the understanding that even as bad as that was for that family, there are other people in the world that would probably do some pretty scary things to have access to that garden hose. And so it's all kind of a perspective shift. Sure. And that was one of the biggest perspective shifts in realizing that you can either kind of feel like a victim to your circumstance, or you can realize that you just gotta go.
Love that, because that's a mindset we have nowadays in our culture, is that victim mentality. Well, these are my circumstances and poor me, and there's nothing I can do to get out of my situation. It's just what I was born with, or whatever my circumstances are, and it's up to the government or whoever else to help me out, instead of me taking myself by the bootstraps and doing what you did, hustling it and doing what you need to do to be an overcome your circumstances. And you're proof positive that it's possible.
Was this before you met your wife?
Yes, that was before I met my wife. I don't know
Okay.
if she would have got with me at that stage. At that period of my
really?
life, I don't think she would. I mean,
Because you got married young.
yeah, I got married. I got married at 20. So, well, a caveat. My wife and I went to elementary school together. So we knew each other from the second grade, rode the school bus together.
You did her homework.
No, I didn't. For free.
Yeah,
No,
for free. Yeah.
So my wife and I, we knew each other from second grade, and then she went to a different high school. So we kind of split during high school. She went to a private school. I ended up not going to school.
Yep.
And then once we reconnected around 19, started dating, and then were married by 20.
Wow.
I had baby number 1, 24. So
At 24?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now you have 5 kids.
5 kids.
Are you guys done?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're done at 5.
An emphatic
Are you
yes.
We're done at
sure?
5.
Have one or both of you had the surgery?
Yes.
Because you got to
yes,
make sure you do
yeah.
that.
It would be a miracle if
There you go.
we had another baby.
Or $10,000 is what I'm told.
Yeah.
Man.
Because trust me, I've thought about it. It's $10,000. Nah, we're done.
So, anyway, so
Good for you. That's awesome.
So you started out in a trailer park,
Yep.
rough situation, had
Yep.
some life-altering moments where you're like, hey, this is, however bad it is, there's people out there that have it worse.
Yep.
And then somehow you roped in accountability into that, where it's like, hey, it's up to me to make the change.
Well, I think it's always up to us.
But that was the shift.
that was
took
the
place?
shift. Yeah, that
Okay.
was a big perspective shift for me. It just turned into like you can feel like the circumstances have always been against you, and maybe you're right.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes people get dealt a worse hand than other people.
Like you didn't pick to be living in a
Yeah,
trailer park.
I didn't pick this, right?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And then I will say, in hindsight, it's almost like you can either focus on, well, I got dealt a worse hand than somebody else, and you can focus on the negative of that,
Yeah.
or you can say, you know what, if I get out of this situation, like the Goliath that I defeated, it creates a better story than let's say
Right.
someone that has it
Exactly.
easier. So in that sense, maybe it's unfair to that person that got dealt a great hand. That how do they have a story of overcome when they
Sure.
did? You know what I mean? So it's just again, it's all perspective.
Yeah, I look
Agreed.
at situations like you. That's why I'm so inspired by those type of stories. People that have had some trials and some challenges, especially early on in their childhood, and just how inspiring a story like yours is that you were able to overcome and have the level of success that you have. But was there something that you did as you're going on this journey and deciding, okay, it's up to me. If I'm gonna be successful in this world, it's going to be up to me. Was there an experience that you had that was rewarding, that you thought, oh, this is good. I'm on the right path. I'm doing, there's hope for my life.
I mean, I would say there's a ton of those. They're just small moments,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
They're just small little steps, and I think all of those steps just give you a little more confidence to go outside of your comfort zone more and more and more. And so it's hard to look back and say, okay, this was a singular moment that just exploded my perspective in that sense. I don't know if I really have one of those. It was just a lot of small wins, you know.
Yeah.
You
Compounded over time.
yeah, you just compound small wins over time, and the next thing you know, you look like I always relate it to like climbing up a mountain, right? So like you're climbing up this mountain, you're hiking up the mountain, and while you're looking in front of you, you just see this incline over and over and over, right? It feels like you're not really getting anywhere. But then when you look back behind you, you see how far you've come, and that gives you some confidence that like, man, I've actually come a long way. Like I can
Right.
keep going. And then you climb up the mountain higher, and then the view looks better. And then as you go higher, the view looks even better. And so it's kind of that small compound wins.
Yeah, and I would assume that that's similar to what folks deal with in real estate, where you get a lead, especially if you're just starting
real
out.
estate
right?
agent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're just starting out, you get a lead, and then that turns into an appointment, and you're excited about that, and then and it just compounds. Oh, then you sell your first house, and you get excited, and just compounds. Your confidence builds over time the more you do it.
Yeah, confidence is one word. Yeah, I would say. Yeah, have you ever heard of David Goggins before?
Oh,
The You
yeah.
Can't Hurt Me guy.
Of course.
I would say it's almost like so he's big on callousing the mind, is what he calls it. And I would say that, like, if you've ever dealt with or interacted with a real estate agent who's been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years,
Yeah.
they are calloused. Like, they are tough because they've dealt with rejection
Sure.
for a long time. And so what happens with a lot of real estate agents, and this is kind of similar to what you were speaking to earlier, Zach, where like some people grow up with more opportunities than others, and it makes them weaker. Some people grow up with adversity and it
Right.
makes them stronger. So what happens in real estate is oftentimes people will get their first couple sales because it's a friend and family member, like somebody's referring them business, and then nothing because they haven't actually been putting in the work or prospecting or going outside of their comfort zone. And they thought, hey, that's just what this career is going to be like. Just talk to friends and family and I'll have enough business to pay the bills and feed my family and achieve my goals. And that's not the case. And so that those early wins early on weaken them. And then they end up, coming out of the industry.
And we're both fathers, so I think that it's helpful for me to try to understand that with my kids because I don't know about you guys, but me as a dad, I'm trying to protect them from everything, because that's what we're called to as fathers to be, is to be the protectors of the family. So I'm trying to keep my kids.
You might be a better dad than me. I intentionally tell my kid no just to piss him off.
Well, no.
So I'm
you got to do that a little bit too.
Can I do this too? Can I do this? No. Why not? Because, dude. Go
now
do something
you're just
else.
Frustrating them.
No, go earn it. Go.
The Bible say don't exasperate your child.
It also says, something about the rod, but but anyways, so I do like injecting a little bit of adversity into my kids'
absolutely.
lives.
Well, to your point about using the real estate agent, and then I think this might answer the question of was there any moment. This was one moment. So when I started working for this marketing company, there's a lot of telemarketing that was going on. And so the telemarketing that we were doing was you made 300 to 330 outbound calls a day.
Were you using like a dialer or?
No, it was a click. It was a click dialer. So you didn't have to press the numbers in, but you would click each individual. It wasn't just like on an auto dial and then it pops into you. You would click each one. So you'd make like 300 to 330 calls a day. And the first day, I was like, this is insane because just everybody tells you no. It's just no. And then what I realized was the stud superstars were getting 3, maybe 4 yeses in a day. And most people were getting 0 or 1. And so it was this view of, okay, so a stud superstar is getting rejected 99% of the time, and that's what makes them amazing.
Yep.
Right? And so once, again, perspective, I'm big on perspective.
Yeah.
Like once you saw that you could get rejected 99% of the time and still be the superstar in the office, then when you got 12 or 15 or 27 or 38 no's in a row, it was like, well, yeah, I'm on track. Like I'm on track to be a superstar right now.
And that translates outside of telemarketing.
Oh, 100%. And so that was, I would say, one of those moments that when I got into business outside of telemarketing or, making a bunch of phone calls, it's like when you go to have, let's say, a business meeting with somebody you want to have a strategic kind of partnership with, and you're told no, you just have in your mind this whole time, well, like, so what? Like who cares if 13 people told me no? Like it doesn't really matter. Next, Yeah. And then I think a lot of people get hung up in, well, if 5 people or if 7 people or 12, some in the grand scheme of things, very small number of folks tell them no, they like give up. Like, oh well, my offer must not be right, or this might not be good. When in reality, you just haven't talked to enough people.
Right.
And that's it. So.
And the really devastating thing about that. For what can be devastating is people internalize it and they think, oh, I'm just not good enough, or
Correct.
I'm not capable, or something's wrong with me. And then they leave work and then they carry that with them. Whereas the top performers on our team, like they are able to shoulder the no's and they focus on the positives, they focus on the wins, and then they take that into other areas of their life. And so now I have guys on my team who have paid off tons of debt, have bought new vehicles, have gotten married, have just told the total story arc of their life has changed because they're able to handle the no's and go out there and search for and see the positive things in life despite that.
Right. And that goes back to, I think it was Thomas Edison. He would always say, I failed 200 times to invent the light bulb, and some people could look at me as a complete failure, but no, I choose to look at the positive of that is that I found 200 ways not to do it.
Yeah, I found 200 ways that didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
I just think to your point, like to not internalize the no is so important.
Yep.
And you just have to realize, like, when somebody tells you no, they're telling your value proposition no. Right? They're not telling you as an individual no.
Yeah.
Like, John, you're no good. I don't like you. It's whatever the value proposition was, or the timing, or their circumstance, whatever, 1,000 variables it could be. They're telling that no, not you, the individual. And I do think that a lot of salespeople I've worked with don't, sometimes they don't differentiate that. Mm-hmm. But once you do, you don't.
It's game on.
It's game on. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've given everyone an appetite of exactly what kind of business does this guy own, let's get into that.
Yeah. So
Into the next segment.
When we come back from the next segment, we're going to talk about how you sold the business. Mm-hmm. By the way, were you planning to get back into business, or we figured you'd stay out forever?
I thought that I would be out forever, and then I just realized like
there's a lot of life
there's
left.
a lot of life left. Yeah. Let's go.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about the business you sold and the business that you have since started when you thought you would never work again.
Yeah.
Ready to sell your home but don't want to go through the hassle of open houses and showings? Johnny Jennings can guarantee to get you at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition. Just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty and get more for your home.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by EXP Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we are back with Zach Downs. He actually works for Nanofi. He's an owner of the business. And so in the previous segment, we were talking about how he started out in a trailer park, had a rough upbringing, worked for a marketing company, a little bit of real estate, and then you started your own solar company.
Yep.
And then you sold that solar company, and you figured, shoot, you know what, might never work again.
Well, I spent a couple of years like investing pretty heavily into like long-term real estate assets, and so I still, I own those, and those are great. But I realized, there's a lot more life left. And my business partner now, he and I knew each other. He had a multi-measure home service company at the time. They did roofing and windows and all sorts of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we both knew each other from that space. He reached out to me and asked if I had heard of roof rejuvenation before. I had never heard of roof rejuvenation. And so we start having this conversation about what roof rejuvenation is, what's going on. It's fairly new. First couple manufacturers came out in like 2018, so relatively speaking, very new.
Yeah.
And we just went on this kind of deep dive. I was just curious about it, and I didn't know if it was snake oil or not, or what is it. And what we ended up finding was there was a couple of different manufacturers of different types of treatment that can be used on asphalt shingle roofs. And we started demoing and just doing your typical due diligence to determine if there was any opportunity here. And we found a manufacturer that we really liked. We liked their value proposition. We liked the warranties that they offered. And about a year ago, we decided, like, let's go. Let's start this up. Mm-hmm. And I always have really liked disruptive industries and business. And I think that this roof rejuvenation space, while it's in its infancy still, has the opportunity to be very disruptive.
I agree.
Yeah.
For those who are listening and aren't sure what roof rejuvenation is, there's basically 2 main categories of people who use your service. Let's start with the first category, people who, for example, how we got to know each other. We we have a client. You worked with them. What happened was she was looking to sell her house. She knew that she had some issues with the roof, but it wasn't actively leaking. Mm-hmm. And but most lenders, so if you're looking to buy a house or sell a house, most lenders want at least a 2-year roof cert. So to certify that the roof is good for at least 2 years. And she didn't think it was gonna work out. She had some contractors come out, some roofing contractors. They told her she needed a complete re-roof.
Yep.
It was going to cost her about $18,000.
What kind of roof was it?
Asphalt shingle.
Okay.
Yeah,
and what were the issues with the roof?
It was old. It was just really old. They were really
but
old.
There
Shingles
were no leaks.
Shingles. A couple shingles had fallen off.
Okay.
In windy weather. I didn't go up on the roof. Was there anything else with the roof?
There was some significant like granule loss. So the granules, like it looks like the sand that are on there. That's really like the UV protection. That's like the sunscreen for the roof to keep the shingles from getting dry and extra crispy. And so a lot of that had come off. And typically once you see some significant granule loss in different spots on the roof, most roofing contractors will then encourage a re-roof to take place.
Yeah. And so they encouraged a re-roof. It was going to cost about $18,000 to do all the work.
Yep.
And she's like, man, that's a lot of money. And I said, you know what? I just heard about this guy. How about you have him out and see if he's able to help you? And then that's where you came out, and I'll let you kind of take over. Like, what did you do when you met with her?
Yeah, so, I mean, the first thing we did is we just talked to her about the potential for this treatment. We said, like, not every roof is a good candidate, but there are a lot of roofs that people believe their only option is a complete re-roof, that we can extend the life. And so we did an inspection and evaluated her roof, and while we did see there were some areas that had some granule loss, there was still a lot of life left in other areas of her roof. And so we treated the roof with the product that we use. It's a petrol-based nanosilica, and without getting too technical and into the weeds, it has silicone that's on a nanoparticle scale, and so it doesn't sit on top of the shingle like a coating or a sealant. It literally like penetrates into the asphalt shingle and helps like restore and bring back flexibility and UV protection and a bunch of other cool benefits from the inside out. And so that just helps extend the life of shingles that are either very close to the end of their life, or even in some parts of a roof, the shingles looked fairly good. Mm-hmm. And so, we'll treat all of those shingles, and it just extends the overall life of the roof by 8, 9, 10 plus years. So, and it's wildly less expensive, which is one of the things she was pretty excited about.
Yeah. I've seen a news article or something about this.
So there's two versions of this product. From my understanding, there's the petrol based, and then the nanosilica, and then there's just the petrol base, right? Well,
there's a petrol based. So ours is a petrol nanosilica, and then there's a more of like a soybean oil base.
But it just basically rehydrates the shingles.
It rehydrates and brings back the pliability. So the soybean oil brings back the pliability and flexibility, but that's about it.
Okay.
There's nothing really else in there that helps with UV protection, or like one of the other things that's really cool. In fact, Susan texted me about a week or two after the treatment was completed. One of the benefits is it creates a hydrophobic barrier on the roof. And what that means is that when it rains on the roof after the treatment's done, the water no longer saturates into the shingle. It just beads right off. So it almost looks like the roof is fully covered in Rain-X.
Wow.
And so, it'll just bead right off the roof. And the benefits of that are, number one, it creates less oxidation or damage in the roof. And the other cool thing is that like moss growth, which a lot of people don't like the fact that moss is growing underneath the shingles. There's no longer any water to absorb for the moss to grow. And so that is eliminated. And so anyway, she texted me about a week and a half after and was like, our roof looks, I'm looking at all our neighbors' roofs, and I'm looking at our roof, and the water's just beating off. So like I said, there's a lot of additional benefits to it. But
so you're saying something like that will extend the life of the roof by how long?
Yeah, up to 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys give a 5-year.
Yeah, so the minimum warranty we do is 5 years. In some conditions and some circumstances, we can go up to 10 years. But yeah, bare minimum is 5 years.
So she went from having like an $18,000 repair that she thought she was going to have to make in order to sell her home.
Yep.
Had Zach with Nanofi come out. They went out. It was like $2,300.
Yeah, it was under $3,000.
They not only did they fix her roof, but then they provided her not with a 2-year roof cert, but a 5-year roof cert. And so right there, she saved over $15,000.
Yep.
And
that new buyer gets this roof that's going to last even longer.
Yeah, because the warranty is transferable.
This is amazing technology. This is great because a lot of people are in these situations where, the economy is not fantastic right now. And so thinking about, oh my goodness, I might have to replace my entire roof. But you guys come along and you have an option, something alternative if they can do this that is a lot more affordable.
The cost of everything post-COVID has gone up, and the cost of roofing is the cost of roofing, I always joke, has gone through the roof, pun intended. And it's people get quotes back that have numbers that they're just like, there's no way.
Right.
And with the cost of money now being where it is, even financing for that can be really tricky for a lot of folks too.
Yep.
And so you have the cost of this expensive service to be done, which is a re-roof, and the money that you would use to finance it is also more expensive. Mm-hmm. So those two things combined can really put some people in a precarious position. And so with this roof rejuvenation product, when you're talking about 80% less than the cost of a re-roof, that's kind of the typical number that we find ourselves at. It just really helps people do one of two things. Even if the roof is in a condition that they probably need to replace it, we can at least get them 5 more years, which is a runway
that
allows them to save up money, kind of figure out like what I'm going to do, because sometimes people end up in a situation where they do have a leak. I would say 50% of the jobs that we do right now, we do some form of roof repair in addition to the treatment.
Well, that's a good point, because you guys don't just come out here and spray that and that's it.
No, yeah. So
What do you do?
So when we evaluate the roof, like I said, 50% of the projects will either like replace some ridge cap, or there'll be a section of the roof that we're going to encourage and tell the homeowner, we think that you really need to repair this area. And so we'll take care of all that first to really shore up any issues, and then we'll treat the roof. And by doing both of those things, that's what gives you the ability to extend the life. And so with people that, let's say, again, are in that boat, they find themselves with a leaky roof or a problem with the roof. Instead of a $18,000 cost, we can end up with a $3,000 cost, and that'll repair the roof and treat it and give them a 5-year runway to figure out what they're going to do. Or in like her case, she was going to sell the house, and so the new buyer now has a 5-year warranty to figure out what they want to do.
So you guys provide that certification?
Correct. We provide the certification. Correct.
Yeah. But that's not just so that's one type of client, right? One type of person that would call Nanofi to have them out and fix the roof, or at least lock in rejuvenate the roof.
Yeah, protection.
Protect the roof. But there's a second type of client that you guys work with, and we're going to discuss that right after this.
It's the simplest, most easy way to sell your home. No showings, no open houses. Get at least 3 guaranteed cash offers on your home in as-is condition. Just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty and get more for your home.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we are still with Zach Downs with Nanofi, and we were talking about how he recently helped a client of ours save over $15,000. Rather than go with a complete re-roof, he was able to lock it in and extend the life of that roof by a minimum of 5 years. But sometimes people aren't, wanting to lock in the roof at the tail end of its lifespan. There are people out there who, are very more maintenance conscious, like the type of people who paint their house every so many years. Is that the other type of client that you typically
absolutely.
work with?
I mean, we work with a lot of folks that just want to, they think about maintenance a little differently, right? They want to maintain. I always think of my father-in-law. He is like a maintenance guy. Like if there's anything that can extend the life of anything that he has on his house, he's doing it.
Like Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino, right? Like his house was nice.
It's just very particular.
I love that example.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I'm going to
It's-
go back and watch that movie.
That was a great movie. And so there are a lot of folks out there like that. And I create that analogy in my mind. It's like this, the treatment that we do is going to stop the aging process. Okay. So if the roof is at the end, toward the end of its life, and we stop the aging process, that's fine. That's good. But imagine if there was a pill that stopped our aging process as an individual. If you waited until you were 80 years old,
right,
and you took that I'm no longer going to age at 80. Well, great. Okay. That's good. But imagine if you took that pill at 30. Like you probably felt a little better at 30, and you could do more at 30 than you do at 80. And so, the same is kind of true with the roof. Like if we can stop the aging process of the roof, there's going to be less, microfractures in the shingles. You're going to have a better overall roof that's going to last even longer than if we do it once we're in the we have to mode, right?
Yeah. I like the example you used too of like changing the oil on a car. Like if you never changed the oil on a car, maybe it would last 30, 40, 50,000 miles. But now because you're regularly getting those oil changes, Valerie had a car that we owned it, and it was still running, and it had 243,000 miles on it.
Wow.
And so how long, if you were to do regular treatments every so many years, theoretically, because you said product came out in 2018.
Yeah.
How long are they thinking this product could extend the life of a roof?
So there's been quite a bit of third-party laboratory testing done from UL and IBHS. And we were actually, my partner and I were just out in San Antonio at a roofing conference a week or two ago. Time's all mushed together in my mind.
Yep.
Having I blame it on 5 kids, but
that's a good excuse.
Yeah. But we were out in San Antonio at a roofing conference, and there were some folks out there that were floating the idea around of if you started this process early and had treatments done every 7 to 10 years on a new roof, that the overall life of a roof, instead of being, let's say, 30-ish years as a life of a roof, I mean, people were floating the idea of like 100 years on a traditional composition shingle roof. Some even longer. Now, to a certain degree, time will tell, right?
Sure.
But I think, to the analogy of the automobile, if in some alternate universe oil changes never existed, and we were just all conditioned that we bought a car, it went for 40,000 miles before the engine blew because we never did an oil change, and then we bought a new car, which is kind of the way that we handle roofing, is we get a new roof, we don't do anything to it, and then at some point it fails and we get a new roof. So if in some alternate universe that was the way that we handled automobiles, and someone came and said, hey, I think that there's this thing like an oil change we could do, and it'll extend the life up to 243,000 miles or whatever her car went to, it would be viewed as insane. Like, there's just no way it can happen. It's impossible. So when we talk to people right now and say, hey, there's a lot of folks that think that if you treat the roof early and every 5, 7, 8 years, that the overall life of the roof can last 100+ years. It's viewed with that same lens of, you're insane. There's no way it's impossible.
Yeah.
But I think that you're starting to see with these lab testings done that, no, it is possible. And if that takes place, I mean, it kind of just fits within the zeitgeist culture that we kind of have, which everything's going to a subscription model. And so it's kind of hilarious that potentially you could end up with almost a subscription
Nanofi
service.
subscription.
Yeah, where your roof lasts forever, and you get treatments done every 7 years instead of a large ticket every 25 years.
Yeah.
And like we talked about with homeowners living in homes for like an average of 7-8 years, if that roof lasts for 25 years, let's say, well, it's almost just bad luck if you're the 1 out of 3 homeowners that ends up with that big ticket, right?
Yeah.
Because if homeowner number 1 buys the roof, spends $25,000, and then homeowner number 2 lives there for another 7 years, they don't have to replace it. Homeowner number 3 lives there for another 7 years, they don't have to replace it. Now you're back to homeowner number 4, and they have to spend another $25,000 to replace it. It's like, man, you just kind of got unlucky with where you ended up
in the cycle.
Right? Versus if you have a $3,000 treatment every 7 years, it's kind of spread out more evenly among the people that are living in the home over those years and period of time, and it's less expensive overall because the $25,000 over, let's say, 25 years is like $1,000 a year averaged out. Whereas if you can get $3,000 for 5 or 6 or 7 years, well, now you're $500 averaged out. So it's like spread out more evenly, and it's less expensive averaged over the course of the year. So I know that was a very long answer, but
no, but basically, and this is just for composite shingle roofs.
Yes,
you guys can sweep the moss off and spray this on tile roofs to prevent the moss from coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, like, right now, insurance, homeowners insurance right now in California is wild.
Crazy.
It is wild.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of carriers, it appears that they're just looking for a reason to cancel
absolutely.
policies.
Oh, you have a leaf on your roof. Oh man. I don't think we can cover that.
Just looking for absolutely anything. And so I think one of the benefits of this is, number one, if somebody does get a letter from their insurance carrier stating that they need a new roof, we've already had situations where we treated the roof, we certified it, they provided that certification back to the carrier, and that sufficed. So they didn't have to, again, spend the money for a new roof. But even if you haven't got that letter yet, but you're concerned that you don't want to get on the radar with your insurance carrier because you have moss on the roof, because your roof is older, we can come out, treat the roof, provide that certification, and now it's like you've been proactive on it, and you have a certification that's in your hand once or if the carrier comes at you and wants X or Y or Z. So.
Exactly. And so we're obviously talking about this in a very positive way, but you've had some experiences with even other roofers who are very skeptical about, hey, is this just snake oil or is this really helping people's roofs? What happened with that? Can you mind sharing the story about the contractor?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think a healthy level of skepticism is, well, it's healthy.
I believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see.
There you go.
That's where I come from.
Exactly. So we had a roofing contractor that was very skeptical. And so we told him, why don't you just come out to a job and let us know what you think, right? And to be honest, like, I wanted to know what he thought too, right? Yeah. So he came out, we were treating the job, and I'll use his words here. He said, as we were treating it, and again, part of it is, again, it's bringing pliability and flexibility back to the shingle, because shingles get very dry, and then a lot of contractors and inspectors will come up and do what's called a brittleness test, and you'll feel how brittle the shingle is. And so while we're up there treating the roof, his words were, "I can literally hear the shingles relaxing." He goes, "This is crazy. Like, this is wild. I can hear it." And then we went back to that same job a couple days later, and he was walking on the roof, and he goes, "This is not how a 20-year-old roof feels to walk on it." Because the amount of granule loss that you typically have when you're walking on an older, dry roof, if you've ever been up on your roof, like, there's probably the granules just start falling off all over the place. You look in your gutter, and it looks like a beach is in there.
Yeah.
And so, he literally was like, "This is not how a 20-year-old roof should feel. This is wild." And since then, now he sent us a handful of projects, and we work with him, so we kind of created a believer out of him. And so, yeah, I mean, again, I think healthy skepticism is good, but once you see what this product can do, and that's why I think has the opportunity to be such a disruptor in the space, is because we've had a chance to see what this can do, and it's pretty incredible.
And then I also want to just touch base on so for example, like there's the people out there who have the house that, the roof is aging. They're going to maybe have you come out and do it. Maybe they have the people that have the newer house, and then they're going to have you come out and just maintain the roof.
Yep.
But so when people look at real estate agents, they think they're all the same. You throw a rock, you hit 2 real estate agents in a parking lot at Trader Joe's. Like, they're everywhere, but they're not all the same. And so the product that you offer is different than the other product out there that's just the soybean. So
Soybean, yes, correct.
Yeah. So can you just so people understand the difference, if they're looking for the right product, the premium product that you're offering, and how that just differs from the other one, can we just touch on that just briefly?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so obviously I'm biased on this, but I would say, but this is where I was going to go with that, is I encourage people that look at our treatment, and I'll say hey, here's a couple of competitors, have them talk to you about their product. Because I think once you see the difference, not from just my voice, but even from the other competitors that just use that soybean oil, we're typically less expensive. So you would imagine okay, well, a premium product's going to have a premium price. It's going to be more expensive. We are 90% of the time less expensive than the competitors out there. And number 2, the warranties that we can offer because of the additional protection that's in the treatment, that nanosilica that's inside of it, we're less expensive, and we can provide a greater overall warranty. And so it sounds backward, right? But really the magic is in not putting a surface coating on the shingle, but getting and creating a molecular change inside of the shingle itself. And that's really where the magic happens. So
if you're exploring different options and you're trying to figure out what works best for you, make sure that you're understanding the difference between what one person is selling you versus what
Correct.
Nanofi offers. And
we do free, I always tell folks too, I say, if there's a maybe chance, we do free evaluations. So we'll send somebody out.
Big.
Yeah, so we'll send somebody out. We'll take a look at the roof. We'll evaluate.
Give them a bid.
Yeah, and we'll let them know. I mean, we can do complete re-roofing also. So they're we were just at a property up in Cameron Park, and they really wanted us to do the treatment. We said, we can't bring Lazarus back. This roof is just, it's gone, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And so we gave them a re-roof bid. And so, we also do re-roofing in addition to treatment. And I think that by being able to provide both, it just allows, if we only did treatment, well, then we're probably going to
sell the treatment,
right?
Yeah.
Just the same way that if roofing contractors only do re-roofs, well, they're probably going to tell you that you need a re-roof, right?
Correct.
And so by us being able to do both, it just allows us to provide the most accurate information to the homeowner. So
love it. Well, hey man, thanks for being on the
absolutely.
show today.
No, thank you for having me.
Well,
Zach Downs
where do we
with
go
Nanofi.
find information?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So you can go to our website, which is www.getnanofi.com.
How do you spell that?
So get is G-E-T.
Sure.
And then Nanofi, Nanofi.com. So getnanofi.com. It's probably the best way to find us. And you can check out all the stuff on our website, go through all that together. Our warehouse is in Roseville. So,
and then if you have any questions, you can always just reach out to us as well at madeformorerealty.com, and we're happy to get you connected with Zach and his team.
Ready to sell your home but don't want to go through the hassle of open houses and showings? Johnny Jennings can guarantee to get you at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition. Just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty and get more for your home.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So, Matt, what was this article you were reading about? Real estate's on like a fire sale, or?
Well, they're saying that sellers are getting desperate, flipping in the United States real estate into a buyer's market.
Okay.
So, from your perspective, are sellers getting desperate?
I would not say desperate, but what we are seeing, so what happened in January of 25 is in many areas of the Sacramento market, twice the amount of homes came on the market in January 25 than what came on the market in January 24. And what's happening is sellers are frustrated. They've wanted to move maybe for years, but they haven't wanted to trade in their 2, 3, 4% interest rate for a 6 or a 7% interest rate. But families have grown. They can't handle the 2 stories anymore. They want to relocate, maybe retire. Like these life events, they can't wait any longer. And so what we saw in January was a massive uptick in inventory, and it has leveled off a little bit. So in February, from the numbers we have so far, I'm curious to see what happens in March. But it's definitely edging in many zip codes out of a seller's market into a more neutral or even buyer's market. Like I was at a listing appointment yesterday, and there's 12 months of inventory on the market for that specific community. Like that's a lot. So the national average, anything over 6 months of inventory, it's typically into a buyer's market. Here in Sacramento, what we typically see is anything between 2 to 3 months moves you out of a seller's market into a more neutral market.
Okay.
So for us locally to have now 12 months of inventory in this specific area, that's definitely a buyer's market. That seller's going to have to be more competitive on pricing than they would have been last year. And so we're actually seeing prices, if they're not flattening, in many instances, going down.
According to this report, they're dropping by at least 2%. Are you seeing that sellers are dropping their prices by 2% at least?
So again, it depends on the area. That's the hard thing about when I look at the data. I'm looking at comps. I'm looking at things that have already happened.
Right.
I'm not looking at what's happening right now. What's happening right now are the pendings, but we don't get that information until they technically close. So from the data I can see, we were typically seeing home prices go for where they used to go for like 99, 100% of the sales price to list price. So if they were listed for, $1 million, they might sell for $990 or $1 million. Now they're selling for more like $970, $950.
Sure. Well, it's tough because like this article was saying, back in 21, I don't even know. I think maybe it was in 22 as well. We had all these bidding wars where you had all these Bay Area cash buyers coming in and getting way more than what it was listing for. Mm-hmm. And people were salivating like, oh my goodness, let's get ready. And so it's a little discouraging and disappointing that now we're here in 2025 and now it's the opposite where it's a buyer's market and buyers get to decide the deal.
In many instances. And so if you are... So, real estate's cyclical, stock market's cyclical. Like there's boom markets and there's bust markets. I'm not saying Sacramento's headed to a bust market, but what I am saying is if you're looking to sell your house and you are trying to compete with other homes, now your neighbors are on the market. It's not just your house standing out. So it's classic supply and demand. The more houses that are on the market, the more competition your home has. The more competition your home has, the nicer it has to look, the cleaner it has to be, the more upgrades it has to have, and the more competitive on pricing you're going to have to become. Or your neighbor's going to beat you out on pricing. And so what buyers are looking for right now is buyers are looking for a house that is move-in ready, all the major systems are working, and as long as you're move-in ready, clean, and realistic on price, homes are selling. If you're overpriced just a little bit, that house is sitting. So I hear from sellers all the time, hey, let's start high, and then we can work.
It's pretty funny.
And then we can work the price down. And I tell them, absolutely, that's certainly an option, but can I share with you why that's maybe not the best strategy right now? And they're always like, okay, sure, tell me why. Well, because you're willing to negotiate a lower price, but if nobody contacts us and wants to start that dialogue, there's nobody to negotiate with. So what happens is you list the price high, and then you're negotiating with yourself. And then it's a death by 1,000 cuts. And you start reducing the price. And then all of a sudden, you've been on the market for longer than normal for the average, for that neighborhood. The buyer sees this, a potential buyer, and they're going to submit a lowball offer. And you're going to negotiate, and you're going to end up negotiating lower than where you would have been if you would have priced it right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And so in today's market, you have to be priced right out of the gate, or you're just going to sit and that listing's going to grow stale.
Yeah. I mean, you look at what's the worst that can happen. You can always say no. Let's say you price it competitively or aggressively, and you get no offers. Then
you weren't priced competitively.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been even worse if you had priced it higher. Or let's say you get one offer. You can always say no if you don't want to go through with it. But, I mean, best case scenario, you're getting multiple offers. And then you're getting more than what you had initially thought you would get for it.
And that's a great point. So if you get one offer in, though, I would strongly encourage you to try your best to make that first offer work. I'm not saying 100% of the time. That's why real estate, it's not a black and white, always this, never that. But many times that first offer is going to be, especially if you have no other offers on the table, that first offer is probably going to be your strongest offer. Now, if it's the first offer and then over the course of a weekend you have 3 or 4 offers come in, I'm not saying go with that first one. But if that's the only offer on the table, your first weekend on the market, do your best to negotiate with them. Don't try to scare them away. We have a client right now who she wanted a certain price for her home. We priced it competitively. She had multiple offers. She scared all of the offers away.
Really?
Because she countered every little thing against our advice. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're not even in contract yet. And she's already being this difficult to work with. We're just going to go look somewhere else. And so you got to be careful with that. I mean, that offer is a gift. It's potentially, this great thing that you're going to have a bunch of money in your bank account at the end of the day. It may not be as much as you hoped, but it'll be more than if you reject that offer and sit on the market another 3-4 weeks.
So, good point.
If you have any questions and want to learn how we help people sell houses faster and for more money and put more money in your bank account, just reach out to us. You can Google madeformorerealty.com. We're happy to meet with you.